Hello everyone, my name is Patreck Farley, and I began my film journey in 2011, beginning in my digital video production and writing through film classes. I'm not sure why or how I fell in love with creating films, but I did. The feeling that develops inside of you when you take an idea and a story and then turn it into a video was amazing to me, to say the least. I made the decision to continue pursuing the art of filmmaking over the years without ever looking back. Little did I know that this journey was going to go on for more than 13 years. In my last Inside Look video for Fatal Encounter Rise and Fight, I mentioned the timeline for the series. I've had a change of heart in how the story developed and how far apart Rise and Fight was going to be with Emergence of Talents in the Fatal Encounter universe. Fatal Encounter Emergence of Talents takes place in the year 2021, almost 3 years after the events of Fatal Encounter Rise and Fight. To fully understand the story in Fatal Encounter Emergence of Talents, it's important that I briefly summarize the first two that started it all. Now, it's not completely necessary to watch the first two films before seeing this one, but it does help in understanding the rise and conflict with the Sacrifice for a Greater Cause organization. Emergence of Talents will conclude the arc of this organization. In the year 2015, I began filming the first Fatal Encounter film. By my standards today, this film falls far from a masterpiece. But you have to remember that it was my first big idea for a film with only a few friends to help me out. A lot of people bailed on the project at the last minute, and it was hard getting anyone to commit to it. The story takes place in the year 2015, where we see our protagonists, Fennec and Rich, rising up to put a stop to Riker and Chris, the leader and co-commander of a small organization known as the Sacrifice for a Greater Cause. Riker is looking at building a new world order through chaos and destruction. Fennec continuously challenges him and his values until the final battle in the karate school. This is where we learn that Riker is only the third in command and that there is a hierarchy to this twisted organization. Rich's old partner in the Secret Service, Chris, also has his own ideals challenged through this final encounter. The conclusion of the fight led to Fennec parting ways from Rich to pursue martial arts training while hiding from the organization at hand. Shortly after was when I had the idea of a sequel in 2017 for Fatal Encounter Rise and Fight. This one I wanted to be much darker and more intense than the first one. Here we meet Nick and learn of the hierarchy of the Sacrifice for a Greater Cause. The story takes place in 2018, 3 years after the events of the first Fatal Encounter movie. We see Rich and Nick sneaking into the warehouse, and this is where they learn they have a pretty big guy running things here. He goes by the name of Seth, and he is the Supreme Leader's second in command of the West. Seth is forming human evolution through brainwashing and virus injections. It is then up to Fennec, Rich, and Nick to put a stop to him. Through the battles ahead, they encounter Seth, who seems to be one step ahead of them at every turn. During their final battle in the warehouses, Seth is killed in action. This is where our heroes learn that he was trying to build a super soldier in Riker's name. Fennec decides to part ways until they are more prepared at handling what is yet to come. Rich and Nick team up from here going forward. Fast forward almost another 3 years to the late summer of 2021. The Supreme Leader addresses the United States, giving himself the name of Zagan, played by Gino Romo. He is now partnered with the US and is looking at finding the fugitives that went against him over the years. We see the return of Fennec, Rich, and Nick. The Sacrifice for a Greater Cause goes after all three men in an ambush that drives the story for the film. Zagan has his own motives for going after the men, and especially Fennec himself. Fennec learns the hard way that going into hiding and waiting for the organization to appear was probably not the best way at handling things. The consequences of his actions and what he learns in the space between worlds drive him to take action and go after Zagan personally. We also learn that Nick has a beef with Abigor, Zagan's second in command of the East. Rich also has his own motives for wanting to put an end to the organization as well. Zagan makes it known that he is wanting to continue with human evolution and to get revenge on our heroes for the crimes they committed in the first two films. The story for Fatal Encounter Emergence of Talents goes deeper than any movie I have ever filmed before. To put in perspective how difficult this was for me to film, it is important to take you back to the year 2019, the year where I first began with the idea. While I was working at the pizza shop, rolling out the dough for the day, an idea hit me. What if I was able to make a sequel to Fatal Encounter Rise and Fight? I already wanted to wrap up the story in a way that would be more intense than any film I've ever made. My friends and I are only going to be young once as well, so why not go for it? I wanted to take the chance to finish the finale of the story that I started many years ago. After work, I went home and began writing the script. Then, in only a matter of weeks, I was over 50 pages in. This was when I presented the idea to Blake and Mick, who were both completely on board. Then, after finishing the script, I began pre-production. I immediately ran into issues with crowdfunding, casting, the pandemic of 2020, and filming locations. I had a couple people drop out of the project due to pandemic concerns for 2021 or being busy with their own production company. Thankfully, I was able to find some replacements. After sponsorships, a loan, a little bit of crowdfunding, and putting a lot of my own money into the project, we were finally able to get started. Filming began in June to August on some weekends, then a weekend in December of 2021, and then we finally wrapped production in May of 2022. Production was an absolutely amazing experience. We had filmed about 50% of the film in 2021 with Blake, Mick, Sarah, and Nick Messersmith. I rented out a karate school and even a small home. We had a blast choreographing the fight scenes and being able to film for 3 days in a row. I took a pretty serious injury at the end of the first day from taking a kick too hard to the chest, by my choice, a couple of times. I thankfully recovered just fine. Going into December of 2021, we filmed for only a couple of days this time. Mainly a lot of dialogue, half of one fight scene in a garage, and a lot of exposition. But we didn't pick production back up again until May of 2022. I flew back Nick Messersmith, then Gina Romo, and Aaron Maines to Reno, Nevada. Then once together, we began creating the movie. I had the crew start off with the dialogue scenes. It was a long first day, from green screen work to a conference room and eventually the bar. Everyone had a great time. The next day was where we began the second half of the ambush sequence. Originally, I was going to rent a cabin in the woods, but thankfully I had access to a mansion that had the same look that I had wanted. Of course, I wanted to block off the kitchen from the living room to give it more of a cabin-style feel to it. When looking back, I think it turned out rather well. The action was on point to match what we had filmed the year prior. Although, I would recommend not getting thrown into a fire pit. Even though the take was perfect, the pain I had to endure for the days to follow was not pleasant. Thankfully, I had access to a lot of pain relief medicine and creams.
All right, so Patreck, where are we? This is at least my day two with you guys here.
Right.
What are you prepping for at this point?
Right now we're getting ready to film a torture room fight scene, which is probably why I look a little weird right now. I got all this makeup on. So the character I play, Fennec, just recently got his ass handed to him by the leader, Zagan, the strongest biohuman in the world. And now that he's captured, we're filming today what happens after that capture scene. He's going to be locked away in a torture room, protected by a bunch of other biohumans. And so right now I'm just kind of mentally prepping with the script. I'm reading over kind of like where we ended yesterday and where we're starting today, more or less. So I'm just going through the script right now. So we're starting on page 34, scene 34. And we're going to be going from there. I think the thing I'm least excited for is I have to put fake blood on my mouth again for when he gets punched and it gets spat all over the floor. Not looking forward to that. So right now, as a director, I look at it from a director's point of view. What angles do I want? How's the lighting going to be? And then from an actor's point of view, I'm looking at how am I acting as the character? How much pain am I in? What are they doing to me? The character I'm playing. And then what is my character going to say? Because I play a character really similar to my own personality, but he's pretty much all serious all the time. And it takes a different character, Clandestine, to kind of get him out of that seriousness all the time. So it's similar but different when you're acting. So I have to read the script like 2 to 3 times so I can get all different aspects covered in my mind. With a lot of caffeine.
A lot of caffeine.
Yeah, double the caffeine I normally drink. So yeah, I'm just preparing.
So do you find it interesting? Do you find that you have to allow someone else to wear the hat of director when you're in front of the camera?
Yeah, that's what Mick Barnes is for. So whenever I have to be in front of the camera, he'll be behind it. And I'll let him take the helm of the camera, the directing, and he'll help me kind of tell me what he's seeing, and then we'll go back and forth, and everything just starts to click really well. But I also have to direct him on what I want it to be, because him and I will have similar but different visions. So that's what happens when you hire another director on board. But you need those kind of people, because they can see it from a different point of view like you do. And that's how you piece the story together. The day after was another slow day, our easiest one to date. We filmed inside of a garage to work on the intro for the movie, and then we also filmed the second half of that outside. The reason why we had the slow day was because afterwards we were going on to an adventure to Los Angeles. The very next morning, Blake and Nick flew down to Los Angeles while Gino, Mick, and myself made the long drive. The reason for driving was to save on cost and to transport all of our props and equipment with ease. Once we arrived in Los Angeles, Nick and I stayed up late in a hotel room going over the fight scenes for the next couple of days. The morning after, we made our way over to the rooftop downtown. We had to pay for our own parking. We had a late start on the roof from not being able to find the owner to give us access or permission to do so. Then we began having multiple interruptions throughout the shoot because the roof was double booked for the day. Other than those delays, production was smooth, steady, and very intense, while also being extremely bright. The sunlight reflected off the white concrete and made it difficult to see at times. But overall, it was probably my favorite filming day of all time. Ever since 2012, I had always wanted to film a final fight scene on a rooftop in Los Angeles. I had no idea I would be able to have the chance to do this exactly 10 years later. Even though it was hot, bright, and a lot of work, I wouldn't ever take it back. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me. On the roof was the fight scene for Fennec and Rich teaming up against Zagan. And boy, I can't wait to show you guys.
Here we are, Nick. LA. 5 stories, 7 stories up, 8 stories up almost. And what a view we have. The city. Nice shade. Decent temperature, a little warm for what we're wearing, but hey, can't all be perfect.
On action. We finally meet again.
You know why we're here.
That I do. You were both beckoned here to witness a very special day.
Oh, let me guess. Another evolution of humanity.
You are correct. I am the one chosen by destiny to save your kind from complete self-destruction. Without me, the world wouldn't be what it is today.
The world will survive without you and without us. It doesn't need you, Zagan.
2, 1, action. I missed it that time.
Hey, you're in charge?
No, you're good.
That was perfect.
No, you held it well.
I'm trying not to kick you.
You're good.
You're on to something.
Hey, not yet.
This isn't the way. Hey, we get him to turn around from you, you know, Zagan. I'm starting to
But I'm
think
gonna
that
have some booming choir and stuff like that going right now. So I'm gonna save the dialogue for later. I haven't used Tapas in a while. So
you're on the ground.
yep.
Okay, so I'm actually in this position. I just
So
popped
I'm
it.
thinking 1, 2, 3, 4. With the Tapas. Are we able to snap those with the 4? The day after was the other half of the fight scene inside of a rustic warehouse. Unfortunately, since we were recording audio, any sort of additional air conditioning service that would have cost extra had to ultimately be declined. We couldn't afford it anyways. Nick and Mick decided to marathon their session with only a couple of small breaks to finish their fight scenes for the day. I was operating the camera at this time, and even though I didn't do any of the fighting myself, I was still very much exhausted. 3, 2, fight on set, action.
It's a little. You're good.
Play that.
Forgot that I was wearing gloves and they do that a little bit.
Action.
Fuck that up.
It's okay. Action. Okay, take 3. Action. Three, 2, fight on set, action.
How's it look?
Boy, that looks
Probably a
painful.
little rushed, but
Oh man,
I think it was too fast.
I forgot the
You guys are supposed to be facing towards me, but it said you turned away. So that works. Doesn't it play it back again? Set, action. One more time. I know exactly how that's gonna work.
Man.
Ready? 3, 2, quiet on set, action. Cut. The long post-production process had begun. I had a lot of technical issues by the end of the year. My computer couldn't handle all the effects and files when editing the film, even when broken into segments. I lost about 3 hours of editing on the final fight scene since it crashed while doing the sound effects for the finale. And I forgot to save my progress. I ended up building a whole new computer with the help of my friends Mick and Josh. But transferring the film from one editing software to another was an absolute nightmare. It severely delayed the production process by at least a few months. We had other delays that I won't mention here, but the light at the end of the tunnel was finally finishing the film with everybody's help. Mick Barnes did an amazing job with all the special effects. Seeing shots go from green screen to the location really made my day. Matt Slagle handled all of the color correction, and while period music returned once more to compose the music for the film, totally knocking it out of the park with some of the best music I've ever heard. We are releasing the film inside of a local theater at the end of June. Digital releases on streaming platforms should be available in the weeks and months to follow. If there is enough demand for a Blu-ray release, then I'll be sure to get those sold to the public as well. I want to say thank you to all of our fans and supporters. It really means a lot to me to be able to make the film of my dreams. Never did I imagine that I would have this opportunity. Indie filmmakers normally go into a lot of debt to get their films made, mine being no exception. Now with the film behind me, I am looking forward to the future. Will I continue the story to Fatal Encounter, or does the series end here? Only time will tell, but one thing I know for certain is that I definitely want to. I also know that I want to continue moving forward with my life with my loved ones, friends, and people close to me. I want to travel and experience what the world has to offer. And I'll never be able to do that if I continue going into the rabbit hole of debt to make films. It's not that I don't want to make more movies. I most certainly do. It's just I can't keep creating them in the same way that I have been. I'd rather go smaller in scale while I take the time to learn the process better to avoid making the same mistakes that I have been doing for the last 13 years. Just because you have a nice camera, computer, and a burning passion to get one made doesn't mean you'll be successful. Lately I've been asking myself, what is my end goal? When will I be considered successful? Success is how you define it for yourself. I reached my goal of creating the film through its trials and tribulations. Financially, I don't expect to see a return, but the experience I had in creating it I'll never forget. I hope I can inspire upcoming filmmakers to go and create the film of their dreams. That has always been a goal of mine. There are more tools, classes, and technology that are available to those that seek it. And once again, I want to thank everybody for supporting me. I really do appreciate you all. This is Patreck signing out. Have a wonderful day.